Welcome back to Just Scribble. It is a new year and I have a new pen with a new nib. Actually, two new nibs. I have here a beautiful pen from Benu. So this is the Lily of the Incas pen. And Benu sent this to me with their two new fountain nibs, and I am so excited. So I've actually already been kind of playing with both of these nibs, and so I have both of them inked up. I have one inside the pen, and then I have one that is loose because it's a replacement for that pen that we are going to actually stick in this other talisman that I have just so that we can write with it. So I'm just kind of sticking that in this pen just so that we can write with it, not because it's a perfect fit, because it really is a replacement for this pen. But this is a talisman, which is one of my favorite Benu pen styles. I actually have two favorite Benu pen styles. The Euphoria, this is one of my Euphorias, and this is another one. And then I have some talismans. You know what, actually, let's take this out of this pen because this doesn't really match. Not that it really matters, but I think it would look really pretty in this pen. Then I can actually use it for a while because I'm almost out of ink in that one anyways. And so we'll put it in this one. That way I can show you guys both nibs. But the talisman is one of my favorite pen styles from Benu. It is the smaller of my two favorites. This is the Euphoria on the right, and then this is the talisman on the left. The Euphoria is just a little bit bigger than the talisman, and I actually enjoy both. And I really love Benu pens. They are very wet, juicy writers, and I really enjoy them. But up until now, they've only offered fine, medium, and broad in their nibs. And they have recently launched two new nibs. They have launched a flex nib and a stub nib, and I have both of them here to show you, and I am so excited. But the talisman do always come with these beautiful inspiration sheets so that you can read about the inspiration behind your pen. So the spiritual and cultural symbolism of this particular one, my new Lily of the Incas, is devoted relationships and good fortune, which could not be more appropriate for the new year. So I'm really excited about this, and I am so thankful to them for sending this to me so I can check it out. So like I said, we have two new nibs, one in new pen and one in a pen that I already had, just so that we can write with it. Your pen does come in this little paper sleeve. I had already used mine and set it up, so I have taken it out of that little sleeve. And then it comes in your box with your little sheet that talks about your pen and the inspiration behind your pen. You do have a product warranty in the box, and then you do actually get a cartridge, and that's what I have on the flex nib. And then you also get a converter with your pen. So I have the converter on the stub nib, and it is filled with Ferris wheel press grape ice ink. And then I have their cartridge on the flex nib. So let's check out the flex nib. So this is their flex nib. And then this is the stub nib. Now, I will say we're going to do writing samples so I can show you guys how these write, but I will say that I am not very good with a flex pen nib for a couple of reasons. One, I just don't naturally push and pull a way that makes a flex nib really perform at its peak the way you really want it to perform. But I am really excited to have this one to practice with, because the other reason that I'm not very good with a flex nib is that all of the ones that I bought in the past have been really bad. They have not flexed very well. They just haven't been really great options for using a flex nib. Now I do have a vintage pen that my dad gave me that is not a flex nib, but the gold nib flexes really beautifully, and I love that pen. But most of the flex nibs that I've bought over the years to try in fountain pens with new pens have not flexed very well. And this one actually flexes really well. However, I am currently, as I showed you, using their cartridge ink in it, which is just a kind of generic blue ink. And I think that the nib would shine better with a beautiful ink that has nice shading in it. So although we are going to do a writing sample with it the way that it is, I'll probably end up sharing it again in a second video, or maybe do a journaling session or something like that with you guys with that nib when I run out of this ink and switch it up with a different ink that has some beautiful shading properties, because I really think the Flex nib is going to shine with a shading ink. But we're going to start with the Flex nib. The Flex nib's in this one. I was holding this pen and this is the one the Flex nib is in, but I do think that the Flex nib is going to shine with a shading ink. But we're going to start with the Flex nib. And so I'm going to write, am I on screen? So that you guys can see. And then I should zoom in. Hopefully I can do this nicely so that you guys can actually see. But it does have some really nice flex to it. I'm hoping you can see that on the screen because it's flexing really well and there's no railroading. And that's the problem that I've had with most flex nibs that I've gotten, you know, from like newer pens that aren't crazy expensive, is that they railroad really bad. And this one does not. I can really put a lot of pressure on it and it flexes beautifully. And if I don't flex, you can see that line difference. I'm really loving this nib. It's just a lot of fun to use. So like I said, when I run out of this ink, I will do another video or we'll journal together. We'll do something because I really think that this nib is going to be so beautiful with a really beautiful shading ink. And I think that's really where it's going to shine. But that is the Flex nib. And then this one has the Stub nib in it. I love Stub nibs. They are by far my favorite. Let me zoom back out for a second. They are by far my favorite fountain pen nib. I firmly believe that your handwriting always looks more beautiful with a Stub nib. There's something about that flat edge that causes this nice crisp writing effect. So even on days where I'm having like a crummy handwriting day, if I'm writing with a Stub nib, my handwriting just looks more beautiful. And if you are writing with an ink that has shading in it, the shading comes out more beautifully with a Stub nib than it does with just a regular nib. And I'm so excited that they came out with a Stub nib because it is definitely my favorite. So this is the Benu. I'm going to write this pen name because that's the pen they gave me, and that's the pen that this nib actually belongs to because I have two nibs for this pen instead of writing the name of this pen. I adore this nib. I actually really love both of them. Not to say that I don't like my other nibs, like this one. This one has a fine in it. This is one of my other newest pens. And this one is a Benu Euphoria fine. But it's just not as fancy, I guess. It doesn't make your writing look as fancy and as crisp. I just really love the look of the Flex nib and then also the Stub nib. I just really enjoy them, especially for journaling. I just think that they're just so beautiful and amazing. Not that I don't like my fine nib and my other nibs in my other Benu pens, but I'm just really excited for these two new nibs. If you can't tell, I'm just so excited. But there we have writing samples. Even with their cartridge, there's actually some red sheening that's kind of popping up on this from the Flex nib. And so I think that a beautiful shading ink or even a sheening ink is just going to be absolutely amazing with this nib. So I'm really excited to use up this ink and move into something else and share that and use that in my journaling. And then in the And then in the stub, hopefully the camera is picking it up, there is this beautiful shading that's coming through as well, where there's darker areas and lighter areas. It's just showing the ink properties so beautifully. This isn't necessarily my favorite ink that I use, the Grape Ice from Ferris Wheel Press. Ferris Wheel Press ink is generally drier, which that actually doesn't bother me because this is a really wet and juicy pen. But I'm just not a huge fan of their inks, and I thought that this color was going to be something I was going to love more than I do. But I have a whole bottle of it, and I thought it was kind of a pretty match for the center of this pen, of the Lily of the Incas. Like, it feels like it matches this really, really well. So I thought it was a really good pairing. And it is a good pairing. It's just not my favorite ink, but I think it's beautiful with this nib, and so I'm excited to have it in there. So I'll probably use that bottle in this pen with the stub nib quite a bit, just to kind of use up the bottle, and also because I think it's the perfect match for this pen. So those are the writing samples. So we have the Flex, we have the stub, and then we have the Fine, which I already owned. Let me see. This one, this is another Euphoria, just so that you guys can see some differences. This is a medium. And so you can just see how much crisper the ink writing looks with these. They just look a little bit fancier. I love these too, but I'm really excited for these. And so those are the two nibs that Benu has started offering, and I am so excited to have them and to share them. And I'm really excited for this pen. Look how gorgeous it is. The beautiful magenta. Look at the sparkles there. And then I just love how they kind of lightly transition and then go down here into the base of the pen, and it has this really dark, almost has a like a red undertone to it, and it has red sparkles in the center, which I'm not sure if the camera is going to pick that up. You can actually see them also here, and it's just so pretty, and I think it looks gorgeous with my other pens that I've gotten recently. So I have this beautiful collection. These are not all my Benus, but these are some of my most recent Benus that I have acquired, and I think they look so pretty together, and I'm so excited. It really makes me want to get into my journal, which is good because I need to be journaling and get more consistent with journaling, and using my fountain pens is really the thing that inspires me and sparks me to journal, because then I can use beautiful inks and beautiful pens. And Benu pens are just so much fun. I love them so much, and I am so excited to have this pen and these two new nibs. But that's my share of the Lily of the Incas pen and the two new pens that Benu has started to offer, the Flex and the Stub nibs. If you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to put them down below, and I will definitely get back with you. Give me a thumbs up if you liked this video. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future videos, and don't forget to just scribble.